Iran war while reiterating he was working with allies to reopen the strait. Germany, no. Defense Minister Boris Pistorius said that Germany would not participate with its military in securing the strait. Quote, what does Trump expect from a handful of European frigates that the powerful U.S. Navy cannot do? This is not our war. We have not started it, said the German defense minister. Denmark said maybe. Denmark's considering sending, a helicopter, I think. Thank you, Gene. Italy said no. We're not sending troops or material. Greece said no. Japan, no current plans to send a ship. Australia, we won't be sending a ship. And South Korea said, we will make a decision after a careful review. To me, that sounded like a polite Asian way of saying, no, we're not helping you. That's it. I mean, that's not it for the news. We got a lot of news. I mean, the thing is, we have been very effective at blowing things up. But what's worried me from the beginning is they focus so much on blowing things, like the number of things we've blown up. And I kept saying, right, but are we winning, right? Winning has got to be defined some other way than just how many things we blew up. And now that Iran has threatened the oil, now that Iran has basically shut down the oil coming out of the region, which, by the way, even though the U.S. gets, and Trump said this today too, Trump said, we only get like 1 or 2% of our oil from the region. So we don't care. He actually said, and I told Callum, I lost the quote. I saw it earlier today and went, what? Trump said earlier today, you could argue we shouldn't even be here because we only get 1 or 2% of our oil from here. He said, literally goes, you could argue we shouldn't even be here. And you're going, wait. You went to war against another country. You declared war against another, I mean, he did, personally declared war against another country, and you're admitting now today that maybe we shouldn't even have been here to start with because it's not in our national interest? It doesn't matter? No, he's lying. It does matter. I mean, the Middle East matters. But do you get, guys, if he knew why we were here, he would know. We're in the third week of the war. It's been 2 weeks now. We're beginning the third week. He still doesn't know why the hell we're in this war, right? He said today that you could argue that we shouldn't even be in this war because we only get 1 or 2% of our oil from the region. So why are we here? Couple things, which we've learned, sadly. I mean, some of us knew this because some of us got our briefing 40 years ago. Donald Trump didn't. When the price of oil goes up anywhere, it goes up everywhere. The price of oil is the price of oil. It doesn't it's not like it goes up in the Middle East and then like in America, it stays cheap. It goes up everywhere. There can be a slight price difference, right? The British oil, the Brent oil seems to be a couple dollars ahead of the Texas oil, but it's like $93 versus $99. It's in the same ballpark, right? When oil prices jump in the Middle East like they did after Trump invaded, they make oil prices worldwide jump. It doesn't matter whether or not it's oil that's drilled in America. That's why it's so expensive. And oil is traded internationally. That's what affects the price. It's a commodity. It's traded like a stock or something, so to speak. The price goes up and down every minute of every day. Not every day, but you get my point, in the same way stocks do. Little more here. Now, Trump threatened to pull out of NATO if our NATO allies don't go to war, basically, with Iran. Interesting question there as to who cares. What I mean by that is, one, can Trump pull out of NATO? Maybe not, because Congress passed a law intended to stop Trump. Ironically, Marco Rubio was one of the two people who was behind the law. Marco Rubio, who's the Secretary of State right now. But Rubio, and I forget the other Democrat, basically wanted to stop Trump from unilaterally pulling out of NATO. So they passed a law that said in order to pull out of any treaty, or like NATO, you would need the support of like 2/3 of Congress or something like that. Well, here's the problem. Trump doesn't care. Trump will just pull out anyway, right? That's the first thing. He'll just pull out. Then what happens? The Congress goes to court to sue him. And then you've got the problem of, does the judge feel that the court has jurisdiction, right? Does the court have jurisdiction? I mean, not the court. Does not jurisdiction. Well, does Congress have standing, right? Would be the first question. Hey, enough out of you. Sorry, I have like the dog from hell here. Jesus Christ. My dog is old and cannot hear. So, but she sits here and whines all day. Not all day. She sits here and whines all night because she gets a treat later. She gets fed later. And I have hours of my dog and you can't hear it. The last 5 minutes I've been talking to you, it has been nonstop in my ear and it's making me insane. But the best part is she's lying in bed now with her head down because she's tired, but she's still whining. So when I looked to see what she was doing, she's laying in bed going, and the best part is once she gets her evening meal later, she's fine. So like, she's not in pain. I thought she was in pain. She's not in pain. She just is being, oh my God. Anyway, mamma mia. It's just like, I just can't even. I just can't even with this dog. You can't say no. So the fact that she's laying in bed is a good thing. We're leaving her be. Oh my God. All right. So yes, so Trump leaves NATO. Congress sues him. The court says, Congress, you don't have standing. You're not a party to this. That's the first problem. Second problem, Congress sues Trump, and the court says, you know, this is a political matter. You need to settle it between yourselves. That's entirely possible that they say that. They just say, Congress, you and Trump need to figure this out legislatively. Pretend the court says, Trump, you cannot leave NATO. And Trump says, okay, I won't leave NATO. How does that change anything? What's the purpose of NATO? The purpose of NATO is to convince people like the Russians not to invade because every NATO country will come to the aid of any other NATO country that's attacked. All Trump has to say is, okay, I'll stay in NATO. I'm not going to come to your aid when we're attacked, but I'll stay in NATO so you can keep my name on your letterhead, right? But when you're attacked, I'm not coming. That's all Trump has to say. And legally, he's a member of NATO. Because NATO, the way the NATO charter works, you don't automatically go to war when other countries go to war. NATO has to get together and decide, and it's got to be unanimous. And if NATO decides, oh my God, it's time for us to invoke Article 5 and defend each other, each country gets to I forget the exact phrasing. Each country gets to offer the level of support it deems appropriate. So NATO can be attacked, and NATO countries don't even need to come to its defense, right? So in the end, Trump could leave NATO anyway by staying in NATO and simply saying, we're not going to war for any of you guys. And which honestly is kind of what he's already done, right? This has been the concern with Trump from the beginning, was that Trump basically was never going to come to support you guys in Europe, right? Right. So anyway, that's the problem with the NATO stuff. More news. Trump is threatening China. Oh, so he's also threatening China today. China gets most of its oil from the Gulf, the Persian Gulf, from, Strait of Hormuz. Thank you, Just Max. And they need to send troops and boats now to open the Strait of Hormuz, he said. And all the China experts were going, here's the thing. Generally speaking, hey, enough already. Stop, please. I love you, but dear God, you are a loudmouth witch. You know that? Oh, my God. I'm petting her while we're talking, by the way. Oh, my God, you drive me crazy. My hearing is not bad. Yours is. I hear every little whine out of you. Oh. Please, thank you. She's laying down now. Maybe that'll get. I pet her a bit. Oh. Oh, my God. I love her, but God, she's a pain in the ass. Oh, God. See, unless you have a dog that does this kind of crap, you will never appreciate what it's. She's a Yorkie Bichon. She's lovely, but she's a pain in the ass. You will never appreciate how bad it is. Thank you, Cindy, unless you've got one. Because literally, I'm sitting, like now she's quiet right now, but I'm literally talking to you guys and I'm hearing, it's like the little kid poking you going, now. Oh, God. Actually, I'm remembering all those trips we took as family together in the car and how my dad would go crazy. I get it now. Like the kids just not stopping when you're trying to do a show. Oh, my God. So China. Yes, Trump says, yep, China gets most of its oil through the Middle East. They should be here. We shouldn't even be doing this. With China should come open the Strait of Hormuz. Here's the problem. Generally speaking, the U.S. does not want China coming to the Middle East. China, I should say, the Middle East is the U.S.'s back I'm going to call it a backyard, even though it's not really our backyard, like Latin America's our backyard, but it kind of is. It's kind of Russia's backyard too. Russia and the US are the two big players who mess around. Playground, I mean, any word kind of makes it sound bad, but you guys get my point. Russia and the US are the two world powers who muck around in the Middle East. China does not. We don't want Russia there, but Russia's there. Now, Russia's hanging on by a thread because Russia had Iran, Syria, Hezbollah, Hamas. Israel destroyed Hamas. Israel destroyed Hezbollah. Russia has Syria, and now they don't because the Syrian, remember, Assad got overthrown. Now he's hiding in Moscow. And Iran, Russia had, but Iran's pretty weak right now. So Russia doesn't have much left in the Middle East at this point. Thank you, Max. That gets you that gets you a wig. That gets you the Trump wig. So Russia doesn't have a lot left. China, on the other hand, has nothing in the Middle East. Sorry, for certain gifts on TikTok, we put on the Trump wig. That's why I just put this on in the middle of talking. So China has nothing. China isn't in the Middle East, really. They certainly don't have like a big military presence. We don't want the Chinese there. We don't want the Chinese having their military running all over the Middle East. No, right? Like, this is, you want your military to be kind of in control of an area, not somebody else's. So for Trump to say, yeah, we want China there, I guarantee you, the generals in the Pentagon are going, no, we don't want China there. Like, we really, really, really don't want China there. Trump said, what was the other? Hang on, I'm trying to hear. Oh, so Kharg Island. So much news has happened in the last couple of days. So Saturday night. I know the wig does have a mind of its own. Saturday night, Trump attacks. Thank you again. Trump attacks Kharg Island. This was fascinating. Now I'll grab my map again to show you guys because I do think it's important. Actually, I grabbed a screenshot of the map, which I probably can show you, because it's important to appreciate. Here we go. So you've got Iran, right? Iran's up here. This is the Persian Gulf, Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Iran, Turkey's over here, Europe's over here, right? Russia, Ukraine up north. So you've got Iran here, southern coast of Iran. This is the Strait of Hormuz. This is that little tight area that's pretty much closed down that the Iranians keep bombing all over. But this is the really bad area because they've got to go through this 10-mile stretch between Iran and like UAE or whatever that is. Yeah, UAE, or it might be Oman even right there. And they can't get through there. So oil from all of these countries, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, everybody, were coming here through the straits and they got shut off. That's what's causing all the problem. Now, Kharg Island is the little red spot up here, right south of Iran. It is Iran, Kharg Island right there. And it's this little thing here off of Kuwait. A huge portion, like 90% of Iran's oil exports go through Kharg Island. So Trump decides to blow it up on Saturday. And it is Oman. I was going to say it looked like it was Oman, yeah. Look at you experts on the geography. I mean, I know where Oman is, but I know it could be like one or the other. So Trump decides Saturday night, I think it was, he's going to blow up Kharg Island, Iran's big export facility. Now, mind you, 90% of Iran's oil goes through there. Well, he announces it and says, but I didn't attack any of their oil infrastructure. I attacked Kharg Island and only blew up their military facilities on Kharg Island. Okay? And he says, that's because their military was used to attack the neighbors, whatever. And you're like, okay, fair enough. But I didn't attack the oil, but unless they open the Strait of Hormuz, I'm going to go after their oil. And I heard this and went, bullshit. You're bluffing. The thing is, Iran knows he's bluffing. Here's why. A couple things. One, what do you think Iran's first... Okay, you're Iran, right? You've got pretty things. I'm your neighbor. I'm in a war with you. And you've got pretty things in your yard. And I say, Iran, neighbor, I'm going to come and break your very expensive statues in your yard. I'm going to break them. I've got very expensive statues in my yard too. And my friends do. My friends who live all around you, who are helping me, they have pretty statues too. I say, I'm going to destroy all of your pretty statues, Iran, you people out there. What's your response going to be? You're going to go, well, you've got the same pretty statues in your yard. I'm going to break your statue too. this would be the stuff that Trump claims the military and his advisors didn't tell him. That, like, if we go after Iran's oil, it's literally the thing. And Mia said the glass houses. It's literally the glass house story. People in glass houses shouldn't throw stones. Like, if we go after Iran's oil, they're going to go after our oil. Our oil is Saudi Arabia and all of its neighbors. Natural gas too. A lot. They Oman. All of them export a lot of oil energy across the board. If we go after Iran's energy, they're going to go after Saudi Arabia's and the region's oil infrastructure and energy infrastructure across the board and blow it up. They're already doing some of it. Like today might have been another attack on Oman, I think, on some of their facilities, but they're not doing it nearly as much as they could. They will if we try to shut down Iran's oil exports. They're going to shut down Saudi Arabia's oil exports. And oh boy, that's going to be fun for the world when that happens. That's why the other night Trump, when he attacked Karg Island, didn't go after the oil. That's why remember a week ago, those of you guys who watch my show every night will remember we talked about this. Remember a week ago, I think it was last weekend, but last weekend meaning 8 days ago, there were that amazing video from Tehran of that fire. Like people were driving on kind of a highway, taking a turn, and there was AI. It was a real fire. It looked fake. That was one of the oil storage facilities right outside of Tehran. The Israelis had attacked something like 30 oil storage facilities across Iran, and the Americans were livid. The Americans were pissed, meaning Trump's people. And they told them, stop it, because they were worried about Iran hitting everybody else in the region. So when Trump makes this threat and says, I'm going to hit your oil facilities unless you open up the straits, Iran knows damn well Trump isn't going to do it because they know he knows they're going to attack Saudi Arabia's oil and everything else, and then the prices go through the roof. So, all right, more. So that's the Karg Island. Axios reports the war could go on till September. Trump and other officials have said it's going to be 4 to 6 weeks, which gets us to around April 1st, April Fool's Day. But a number of officials that Axios spoke to said basically they think the war goes on to September. It could even be low level, like a lower level war, but that it's not going away. That means energy prices aren't getting better anytime soon. The other point I wanted to make was, here we go, was what if Iran says no? What if Trump tomorrow says, okay, we won, war over, we're going home. And Iran says, bye, we're not freeing the oil. We're going to keep the Strait of Hormuz closed, right? We're just going to keep it closed. Then what happens? Then oil continues to keep rising and going through the roof. And I should have said, the reason Iran says this is because Iran says, look, you're just going to come back and blow me up again like you did last time, right? You blew me up last year. You came back again now. Until you stop blowing me up and I have solid international assurances, I'm not letting the oil go. And you can go F yourself, right? What was from the movie, from the Iran Revolution, remember go F your, whatever the expression was, the name of the movie, I'm forgetting it now. You guys know what I mean, the Ben Affleck one, from the hostages getting released. But all Iran has to say is, no, we want international assurances that the U.S. and Israel are never attacking us again. And until we get those assurances, we are not going to free the oil. The oil is going, go fuck yourselves, exactly. That we're not going to let the oil go. And then what happens? The U.S. has to come back. And the U.S. has to attack Iran again. Now, that's another question is, there's a lot of different military options here. Why doesn't the U.S. open the straits? Well, how would we do it? We would have to do it by escorting tankers, and basically we would have to put ourselves out in the open for the Iranians to attack us. And the Iranians would attack us, and they might really damage our ships and kill and injure a lot of U.S. soldiers. The other option is taking Karg Island, which Trump may still do. Right? They were saying, oh, what if the U.S. takes Karg Island? Well, you could, because remember, we're sending 5,000 Marines, or between 2,500 and 5,000. Initially, we heard 5,000. Now I heard it might be 2,500. We send the Marines. What if the Marines take Iran's little island? Well, let me show you the picture again. If the Marines take Karg Island, or frankly, we try to keep the strait clear, right? Look at how small this area is, like 20 miles. This little, from Iran to the area is like 20 miles. This is not a big area here, guys. This is 20 miles. Or Karg Island's even fewer. Karg Island's like a couple miles from Iran. We put a bunch of Marines on this little island and take it from the Iranians, and the Iranians line up here and they blow the crap out of the Marines and kill them. So then what do? Well, then we decide to bomb and invade here to secure this area so they can't attack Karg Island. So we put a bunch of Marines, a couple thousand Marines along the coast here. And that stops Iran from using this area to attack the island. But now what does Iran do? Now Iran says, oh, then we'll use all of our troops here to attack your Marines here. So now we've got to move into this area and take this area. But what happens then? Then Iran says, oh, we're going to attack you from here. They've got a whole country to attack us from if we take Karg Island or we sit here and try to take the Straits. Very, very, very dangerous stuff. Hey, relax, please. Very dangerous stuff. That's what the experts are saying. That is why, I mean, I follow a ton of defense folks. I'm a foreign policy guy, but I follow a ton of defense folks. That's what the defense folks are saying. There's a very good reason we have not tried to open the Strait of Hormuz because it is believed it would be very costly militarily for us, and the Iranians would keep taking shots at us again and again and again. We wouldn't be able to secure the area, basically. Securing it meaning, like, imagine the cops coming through your house and making sure that your apartment's safe, nobody's in your home. Oh, there's no burglar here. They go room to room. You can't do that in the area because Iran's there. They're just going to keep firing and firing and firing at you. Bad news. What else we got? I've got so much news to tell you. Some senior Trump officials are starting to doubt the wisdom of the war, says Axios. A source close to the administration said some key officials around Trump were reluctant or wanted more time before the war started. Quote, he ended up saying, I just want to do it, the source said. He grossly overestimated his ability to topple the regime short of sending in ground troops. The source said Trump was high on his own supply after last summer's quick strikes in Iran and January's abduction of Venezuelan President Maduro. Quote, he saw multiple decisive victories with extraordinary military competence. I think that's the real issue. Trump thought we were going to invade, he was going to bomb, and they were going to overthrow the regime. The people would or somebody would, right? That it was going to end in a week or two, and that was it, right? And I'm sure they told him, Mr. President, again, I told you guys, and I'm not the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, I'm not the head of the CIA, and I told you guys, the conventional wisdom is air power is not enough to overthrow a government. You can't just bomb them into submission. It doesn't work. Israel informed the U.S. this week reportedly that it is critically low on ballistic missile interceptors. Trump's AI crypto advisor, this was interesting, David Sachs, who those of us who follow Ukraine know who he is. David Sachs is a pain in the ass, whines a lot about Russia and Ukraine and, oh my God, World War III and this kind of crap. David just doesn't stop. So he always wanted us to cave to Russia and give Russia what it wants in Ukraine because there could be a nuclear war. Well, Trump hires him to be his top AI czar and top crypto czar. And what does David do? David Sachs is a pain in the ass. He's an Elon Musk buddy, MAGA, right-wing, blah, blah, blah. David Sachs this weekend goes on a podcast. Mind you, he's a senior Trump official, guys. Right? I mean, he's got his regular job, but he's a senior Trump official. And he goes on a podcast and says, we need to find a way out now. We need to find an off-ramp now because Israel is going to use a nuke and the whole world's going to blow up and we're going to have a nuclear war. I'm reading this going, he's a senior Trump official. He's a senior Trump official. And he's doing a podcast saying, A, we've got to end the war now, which Trump does not want to hear that. And B, Israel's going to start a nuclear war, which is why we have to end the war now. I cannot tell you enough how inappropriate it is for this guy to be doing a podcast at all. He's the crypto guy. He's the AI guy. He shouldn't be giving opinions on Iran. And if you work for the administration and you're giving opinions, you give opinions in line with the administration. That's just the way it is. You don't go public and say, this war the boss is fighting, he needs to stop now. I mean, sure, you and I feel that way, right? But we're not a senior Trump White House official. It does. What Colin just said, the ship is sinking. That's the kind of comments you make when the ship might be sinking. Yes, yes. CNN's Fareed Zakaria reports. This is interesting. Zelensky, right, president of Ukraine, Zelensky says Russia gave Iran Shahed drones that were made in Russia, and these drones were used to attack U.S. troops. They may have used Russian drones for some of the drones that killed our troops and injured our troops that Russia provided them. Oh, but it gets better. Quote, I have 100% facts, this is Zelensky, I have 100% facts that the Iranian regime used them against American bases in the Middle East. Ukrainian intelligence also believes Russia shared information with the Iranian regime for targeting U.S. troops. Now, we know already that Russia was helping the Iranians target. Nobody said specifically until the Ukrainians did that that Russia was providing information